Hey everybody, welcome to Game Mess Mornings presented by Deku Deals. With me, Jeff Grubb, your host from GiantBomb.com. Thank you for tuning in. In this episode, we're going to be talking about a ton of news about upcoming video game hardware. It's time to start talking about the next gen, and the next Ratchet and Clank game gets announced.
Really?
It's going to be a good one. Hold your horses there, bud. It's going to be a good one because we have Jan Ochoa on the show. Jan, how are you doing?
I was really excited, and then you tempered my expectations, Greg.
Let's temper them expectations just a tad, just a touch. We'll talk about that very soon. But yeah, it's a big news day, plenty to catch up on. You did get a chance to go out to Seattle and see some stuff. How was that trip?
Yes, it was a little bit. I felt a little bit loopy because this was maybe a day or two after I got home from the Bombathon.
Yeah, it was nonstop.
And then Valve was like, "Hey, come on over, y'all." And you know, when Valve comes calling, you don't say no. If Gabe sends you the "you up" text, you get in the car and go. And also, Dan and I, we put out a combination of a video checking out the new Steam Frame, Steam Machine, Steam Controller, as well as like ever a little bit of a teensy travelogue sprinkled in there. I always enjoy going to Valve because the people that work there seem very enthusiastic to work there. They're happy, and also, you know what, Grub, when you were talking to someone that is so incredibly passionate about like the work that they get to do, that it feels infectious, that even if some of like the more technical hardcore details are like going over your head, you're like, I'm glad y'all made that work. That is cool. Hell yeah. And it's just like genuine warmth and smiles. And I feel that every single time I've gotten the chance to visit Valve for, the original Steam Deck, the OLED, and now all these three things.
Yeah, it's their flat structure over there. People only work on stuff that they want to work on, and the fact that like they work that way and then they end up doing all this very amazing stuff. It's like, well, there's only one way this happens. It's because they all really want to be doing this. And that's encouraging and exciting. And you know that the hopefully that passion will carry over now that it seems to be really well received. So, okay, I think we're setting ourselves up for a nice future of cool hardware and maybe more importantly in my eyes, a lot of like awesome software improvements that will set up gaming in a way that'll be safe from the effects of Windows and all these other things that are a little bit shaky right now.
And we'll get into it as we talk about the Steam stuff further, Grub. But I also am deeply appreciative of Valve even having us on their radar and inviting us out multiple times. Like we're all things considered, we're a very small team, and our pocket of the internet, as fun and as great as it is. Like, I understand that we're not hitting the same numbers as like all these other gaming outlets and everything, but I do appreciate that they will constantly invite Dan and I back. I'm like, oh, those two that keep filming in the park across the street. Yeah. Okay.
They love it. Yeah, no, it's they know our crew, they know our audience, and they're I would always appreciate it. Pretty friendly with Valve, and that's nice. All right, well, let's get into it then, because I want to talk about the hardware and everything. Before we get into things, though, let's explain ourselves. We're Giant Bomb, Video Game Doofuses, independent games media. But your support enables us to continue to be independent going in the future. You can make that happen by going to giantbomb.com/join, become a premium member, gets you ad-free versions of the shows, gets you some extra goodies. But what it gets you is the satisfaction and the confidence that that your efforts will support us going forward, and that we can continue to do very cool stuff like Bombathon, like SGF, like the Game Awards, like our Game of the Year discussions in person, stuff like that. So shouts out to y'all. And thank you for everyone who's come through and supported us by going to giantbomb.com/join. As far as this show goes, most weekdays, I, Jeff Grubb, will help piece your gaming life back together. That includes breaking news and maybe even some of our own original reporting. For all these topics, I'll get the input of a bona fide expert who will make me look smart. If you are watching live on Twitch, welcome. You can always listen to the show later on podcast feeds by searching for Game Mess Mornings, or find the RSS feed on giantbomb.com. You can also catch the show later with chapters and timestamps on YouTube. Hello, YouTube. All right, we have a lot to get into, so let's start the morning mess with Valve reveals a new hardware lineup, a controller, compact gaming PC, and VR-ready headset. We're going to grab this from Darren Bonthus at GameSpot. but we'll be pulling from here and there as well. Valve has announced 3 new Steam hardware products, which will all be shipping out in early 2026. Next year, we'll see the launch of a new Steam controller, a Steam machine for PC gaming, and the Steam Frame VR headset with specific launch timing and pricing to be shared after the first of the year. We will have a conversation about pricing here at the end of all this. Steam controller. The Steam controller is inspired by Valve's Steam Deck mobile gaming PC, and it includes all the inputs required to play a modern game. Valve says this controller is equipped with next-generation precision magnetic thumbsticks. It's actually this is improved over Hall effect sensors. They're using TMR, which I think is tunneling magnetoresistance. The thing is so traditional thumbsticks will wear down. Everyone knows about drift. Hall effect fixes that, right? Hall effect sensors can last forever. There are some very subtle, very minor deficiencies with Hall effect where it's like when they're made, they have to be so precise with placing the magnet in there. Essentially, what is a magnet? That if it's off by a few micrometers, it could constantly be having its own input. So they what they do to address that, Jan, is they have a larger dead zone in there. It's not that much larger. It's about the size of a normal dead zone. It's not that much of a problem. TMR doesn't have that issue, and it also enables them to have an even smaller dead zone. So you can have more instant feedback. There's some other improvements, like the input is a little bit more linear, so it works a little bit more like you're expecting. Although, again, it's not like Hall effect sensors are a problem. It's just slightly better than that.
Sure.
It's impressive that they're immediately going to this, though, because this is, as far as gaming applications are concerned, this is a pretty new tech. This is the kind of thing that you would find these sensors in military planes for, like how the fin or the ailerons are set. They're like, okay, we need to know the exact degree of how that's set. Well, TMR sensors were used in there, and now it's just starting to come into game controllers. Full-size controls, trackpads, gyros, and grip buttons, and it's compatible with PC, Steam Deck, Steam machines, and the Steam Frame. It's got like its own little charging puck, right, Jan? You got the chance to use this thing,
Yes.
see it. What were your feelings about it?
I was initially a little skeptical, Grubb, over the form factor of the control, just because it didn't look the most ergonomically sound, because it is a tall controller. Dan likened it to the Dreamcast, but upon using it, actually having it in my hands feels really good. It feels very comfortable. Ergonomically, I could see myself using it for an extended period of time. And as we showed off in the video, Grubb, just like the Steam Deck, it has all of the different options to build out different control schemes. I think one of the most impressive things was the capacitive touch that is built into the controller. So
like the sticks and the grips, right? It's like where it's sensing. Okay, yeah.
So it will not only see it when it is in when you're holding the sticks, but also if with your other fingers, if you're gripping the controller. In certain control schemes, that'll activate the gyro in it, and then you could use it as like a Wiimote or a mouse. And combined with the Steam machine, I could see that really opening the door for maybe like point and click games. Perhaps you're playing it in like an old Monkey Island or something on a living room. But overall, the haptics and the rumble in it, they were also very proud of. And I'm not normally someone that has haptics on, or I generally turn vibration off because my hands are stupid. But this felt very impressive. It felt almost like using a DualSense controller. And, the rumble aspect is going to be up to each developer, but it is nice now for PC gamers to have that option of very good feedback when it comes to rumble. Also, I was initially a little bit thrown off because I think I've gone so used to the Xbox format of the analog stick layout. But I think the kind of PlayStation orthodox analog stick layout works well with the touchpads. And I think the touchpads are in a very good space. They are underneath the analog sticks, and it feels fairly natural to shift your thumb over.
All right, Jan, we have a little tech issue, but we're back. I'll say, just before we get off the Steam controller, Valve said it has support for up to 35 hours of battery life, which is, I love to hear that it's got a rechargeable lithium-ion battery. You mentioned the gyros and using the touch to sort of activate that. And it's like, there's some clever ideas there where it's like you could put your thumb on the sticks to sort of say, hey, I want to be using gyro right now, or you could even like have it where it's like it's always on, and then if you want to like recenter it, you could just like loosen the grips
Mhm.
and then center it again, re-grab the grips, and be like, okay, now I'm good to go. And it's like, oh, that can just become second nature very quickly for people who play a lot of games that way.
Yes. My first application I'm thinking of is I know a lot of folks will use the gyro aiming in a game like Splatoon, and they get real tricky with it. So I can only
Yes.
imagine that application when you unleash the gyro aiming sickos out into something perhaps like, I don't know, CS:GO, perhaps, or other FPSs that are out there that you can play through Steam. I think the one thing we didn't get the chance to talk about yet, though, Grub, is the little puck attachment. That
Yeah.
thing acts like as a dongle, so you can just plug that into the Steam machine or whatever PC you have, and then that'll just help pair the controller. Also, you know what, Grub? I think I like puck style things where you can just crook and
Yep.
attach it and everything, and then you could rip it off, but you can just easily pry it off. It's a little bit of like a magnetic connection there. Steam, I think they like magnets.
Yeah, it's cool technology. And then that radio that is inside the puck is also just built right into the Steam machine. So it's going to have native connection to its own controller. Let's talk about the Steam machine. Let's continue here with the description from Darren Bontheus. If you're looking to bring your PC gaming to your TV, the Steam machine looks like it'll be a compact solution. This roughly 6-inch cube runs SteamOS and is made to work with the Steam controller. And Valve says that it also supports other accessories so that it can offer versatile PC gaming experiences. And it's open. It has USB ports. It's going to have Bluetooth. You can connect whatever you want to it as a controller. This will be available in 512 gigabytes and 2 terabyte models with room for a micro SD card to expand storage. And internally, these have an AMD Zen 4 6-core 12-thread CPU, a semi-custom AMD GPU that people are saying is about equivalent to like a 4060 or maybe a 7070. Well, I can't remember. It was 770, whatever the AMD equivalent is, maybe one step up. And then it has 16 gigabytes of DDR5 RAM, although apparently only 8 gigabytes of that is VRAM. Valve says that the unit supports 4K gaming at 60 frames per second by using AMD FSR4 that it handles ray tracing stuff a little bit better. Okay, 6 inches. That's like I'm imagining something that's like kind of the size of a GameCube. Is it about the size of a GameCube?
Yes, 100%. For folks out there that are looking for a frame of reference, if you have like a square or a cube tissue box, it is the same size as one of those. Or if you have a GameCube in your life, it is exactly like one of those. I think when they pulled it out, Grub, I was so excited because I say it in the video, but the thing that I detest the most about modern generation consoles is how uggo they are and how unimaginative. But who knew pulling out a heavy, not heavy, but like a cube that I can play my whole Steam library on would excite me that much. The engineers that we were chatting with, they also mentioned that the micro SD card that you have in your Steam Deck, if you wind up putting most of your games on there, you can pop that out and pop that straight into the Steam machine, and it'll work completely fine. It should carry over mostly everything, which is very impressive. The thing that they love to do when I've gone over there at Valve is they love showing the other applications you can use their things for. So they also showed it off in a desktop mode, and it ran perfectly fine. I was running Blender, some coding window that I have no idea what was happening, and I was playing Balatro as well, and it was running completely fine.
Some interesting things about this. It is not a custom SoC. It's not a system on a chip. They are not putting the CPU and GPU onto one die and building it that way. These are bespoke, distinct CPUs and GPU. So it's interesting. I guess the reason they did that is it was a combination of factors. They were worried about cost, obviously, but like the size and the heat and just how easy it would be to produce. And it's like when they did all of that, they ended up coming up with this solution. And it doesn't seem like it held them back in terms of being able to create something that is super small, super compact, and super dense. It's actually quite impressive. Okay, so in terms of the power, though, we are talking 4060, 70 or 7600 from AMD. I bet it'll be because it's custom, probably because they are going to be able to really hone in on the features. I bet we're going to get performance at the end of the day over time that will outpace the things that it's equivalent to, but not by a lot. That's just going to because based on like the experience with the Steam Deck of like them being able to get so much out of that because people are specifically building for it and they can really focus on improving Proton for that and stuff like that. So it's going to be pretty powerful, 6 times more powerful than the Steam Deck, they said. And again, with FSR 4 to help them get up to 4K, you got to see this in person running. What like Cyberpunk was on the screen and stuff like that. What was your takeaway in terms of the visual quality?
From the visual quality, Grubb, I couldn't discern a difference from it running on a PC. I will preface this by saying my eyeballs are not trained to really notice the technical differences when it comes to PC gaming performance. But based off of all the specs and the demos that they ran us through, it felt like a console experience that I feel like would translate well to someone trying to dip into Steam for the first time.
It's not going to be super easy to upgrade this necessarily. This is supposed to be kind of a self-contained thing. You can add more RAM, I think. You can obviously expand the storage. In fact, you could just buy that 512 gigabyte version and put your own 2 terabyte SSD in there, so you don't have to pay the whatever price they're gonna charge you. Well, again, we'll talk more about the pricing in a second, but they didn't provide a price. There's maybe a couple other small tidbits like HDMI 2.0 instead of 2.1, but apparently that's about not having some specific features that they would need to be able to use the HDMI 2.1 name according to that consortium or whatever it is. It does support 4K at 120 frames per second, 120 hertz. And like HDR and FreeSync and all that stuff. So it's going to have most of the features that gamers care about. Wi-Fi 6E, it's going to be pretty fast. It has that dedicated Bluetooth antenna. So and then it has its own controller stuff. So there's a lot of like radios in there so you can get the maximum speed from all these things without them interfering with one another. And that leads into the Steam frame, which will take advantage of that, be able to connect directly to this thing. But also the Steam frame comes with its own dongle that is specifically for streaming VR games to this new VR headset that is otherwise standalone. Although, Jan, let me just ask you, when you saw this thing, did you get the sense that they were saying, hey, well, this is a streaming VR thing first or a standalone sort of MetaQuest thing first?
It's a little hard to say, Grubb, just because I think they were very proud of showing the streaming tech through the dongle and how you can just play your existing library off of a PC or a laptop that you do have, potentially straight off of your Steam machine as well. And I can speak to how well that felt. Hey, I don't know if anyone knows this. Half-Life Alyx, cool freaking game. It turns out. And I think the headset overall, if anyone out there has worn a MetaQuest 3, which I find, or a PSVR 2, those are 2 headsets that I find to be very comfortable. This blows it all out of the water.
Just much lighter, right? Yeah.
Just in terms of how light it is. Dan did get the chance to play Hades 2 and another VR game straight off of the headset, and I don't think he had there was any discernible differences for him when he was checking those 2 games out, because he was just playing those on like a couch setup that they had, and on top of that, it was also streaming out to another monitor, so I could see what Dan was seeing. Yeah, Grubb, it is a very comfortable headset to wear, and for folks that wear glasses out there, it is a good one of those for us.
Okay, that's fantastic to hear. I'm going to read some of the stuff from Darren Bonthus before I hone in on things that I'm really surprised and excited about. The Steam Frame is a VR headset that can stream VR and non-VR games, designed to be comfortable and featuring a lightweight construction. It's powered by a Snapdragon processor, so it's ARM, and runs Steam OS on ARM. It also supports standalone play and full controller input support for PC VR and non-VR games. The headset has a 2160 by 2160 LCD per eye and a 110-degree field of view with a 72 to 144 hertz refresh rate. It has 16 gigabytes of RAM and will be available in 256 gigabytes and 1 terabyte storage models. Storage capacity can also be expanded with micro SD. Does this do the same thing where if you take the micro SD from, okay.
So another thing that it is very apparent, Grub, that there was a lot of care into the design of this is the face cushions are held on by magnets that you can easily take off.
Oh,
And
cool.
then
Yeah.
underneath the padding is a micro SD port where you can take it from your Steam Deck, Steam machine, and slot that bad boy into there, and it should just carry over everything, as long as you have everything linked up, like you're logged in as your account on the Steam frame, etc.
It will come with controllers that have 6 degrees of freedom. That's what DOF stands for. Tracking, capacitive finger sensing, like we were talking about before. Obviously, that's even more important in VR. Those same, I'm assuming, magnetic thumbsticks, the TMR style thumbsticks, and a battery life of up to 40 hours when using. Oh wait, this is still right. Yeah, when using AA batteries. That's for the controllers. We've been super happy with the success of the Steam Deck, and a lot of feedback we've received from gamers about it, and it is what has encouraged us to expand the options for Steam users. They said, you talked to them, they kind of repeated a lot of that stuff. I'll get to here real quick. Breezy Caesar has a question. Would you get SteamOS on your phone? Mobile crossplay workaround, looking at you, Balatro. So yeah, this is super interesting, not just because they're making their own VR standalone headset after making a VR headset previously. They're still interested in VR. The fact that this is a Snapdragon 8, like Gen 8, I believe, which is in a ton of these like Chinese handheld devices. There's specifically one I'm thinking of, I can't remember the name of, but I'm like, I think that's the same exact processor that's in both these things. And that means SteamOS with Proton, with all these abilities like built in to run your Steam library, will now work on, potentially could work on Android phones and a variety of other devices that all have ARM chips. And that's really, really cool because, not that stuff is not possible already. There are there's I can't remember. There's a Windows translation layer, the WinLater, I think it is. You can get that on Google Play right now, and it's a little bit of a hassle. There are other versions of that idea that are a little bit more streamlined, but of course, none of them are going to be as streamlined as Steam OS. And it's like, I wonder if there's a world even, Jan, where we see Valve make their own phone, their own gaming phone, because I bet that Steam app on your phone right now that I use occasionally to like buy a game or to talk to a friend or to set something up. I bet that's going to be a thing where you can click on a game and it'll just start playing down the line because they'll be able to put all the translation stuff into that app directly, especially now that the regulation around having third-party stores on your phones has really tightened up and enabled those companies to do that. So things are kind of lining up for something along those lines. That's pretty interesting stuff. Did you get the sense that they have all these ideas in mind or something along those lines?
Grub, 100% yes, because when they were introducing even the concept of the Steam controller to us, they were talking about how it is built on they've taken all of the learnings from everything they've done before. So that and I'm talking about the original Steam controllers with the two big honkin' touchpads on them in place of some of the face buttons, or instead of the sticks, I believe. And every iteration from the Steam Deck to the Steam controller, like the little Steam PC thing that they had, Steam Link from a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
All of their learnings they've taken into consideration to building the next thing that they're building. And also, it feels like they're building things for what their audience would want and also what they want. So the very passionate freaks out there over at Steam or at Valve, I could easily see them thinking, "Oh, I would want I would want the ability to play games on my phone. Why don't we make a phone?"
Yeah, I mean, at the very least, just get SteamOS to a point where I can install this thing on my AYN Thor, and suddenly that device just is like even better, and hopefully make it so the SteamOS is an easily sort of modifiable tool that people could be like, oh no, here's the fork that is perfect for AYN Thor that understands the dual screens and just handles that stuff naturally. Yeah, I'm excited about the possibility for that. All this stuff really though is in my wheelhouse, and we could talk about like, hey, well, how does the Steam machine compare to what Microsoft might be planning for the new Xbox? I don't think Xbox is like at any more risk because this thing exists than they were already at. However, I know for a fact how I feel, Jan, and I feel like I would rather have this thing than any weird half measure, half step Xbox PC thing that still has fucking Microsoft Teams on it.
Yes, 100%, Grub. Something I did cut out of the video several times is when we were doing our predictions, and then when we were talking to the devs, I did try and incept the idea of a watch.
Oh, Jan, you're doing the work, huh?
Yep.
Still out there doing the work.
I'm out. The watchdog is here, y'all. Don't worry. I'm still out here on the streets.
Steam OS watch. I'll get it. If they make it, I will buy it, Jan. I promise you that. There you go. All right. Any final things from these three devices? I guess they did use the number 3 to say we have 3 pieces of hardware. Was there a sniff of what is now the much rumored coming of Half-Life 3? Like, I thought there was a chance maybe you'll come back and tell me you saw that. They're still not talking about that if that's real, although I think it might still pop up here any minute. Was there any hint or any teases, anything along those lines?
I don't know, Grub. I can't read them at all. For as polite and nice and knowledgeable as they all are, I feel like they probably have the best poker faces in the industry because, tinfoil hat on, like you said, they're showing 3 things. The primary demo on the Steam frame, Half-Life Alyx. Come on, guys, follow the breadcrumbs. What's going on?
Microsoft's Phil Spencer did comment on this and says, "Hey, we're one of the biggest publishers on Steam, so we love this," and for sure, because I think I would just talk about it from the terms of the forecast for the future of Xbox hardware. And again, I don't think it has much of an effect on that, primarily because they have not put any of these Steam hardware devices into retail stores. And that's going to be a big hurdle. You're going to be able to find an Xbox at Target and Best Buy, and that's going to be very different. But let's say all things were equal. In that case, maybe Steam Machine eats into it a little bit, but even then, I wouldn't be like worried about the Xbox more than I already am. But yes, in terms of like how I feel, it's like I know that this thing is more for me.
I think for people like us, Grub, and people in our audience, the community, this is incredibly appealing. And then can also act as a gateway device for those extra non-PC oriented people in our lives that have been intimidated, even with how easy it is to get into PC gaming now with the Steam Deck and with gaming laptops available at your Costco's and whatnot. This is definitely a device that can help bring people over and let them see the light of PC games. And what digital games go on sale?
Yep. So we'll talk about the price, but first we need to take a break. We're going to be right back after these messages. If you want to skip out on this, you can go to giantbomb.com/join, become a premium member. Ad-free version of the audio show, ad-free version of the video show is available there. We'll be right back. Jan, you taught me to overcome my fear of sharp objects. I want to teach you how to overcome your fear of saving money.
No, I don't wanna. I will only ever pay the manufactured suggested retail price.
Stop. You don't have to live this way because now there's Deku Deals.
The double D?
That's right. Deku Deals is the best way to find deals on any major gaming platform or store.
I don't want no bunk out-of-date coupon code, Grub.
It's nothing like that. Deku Deals has both the hottest and the freshest deals updated constantly. It's also just added Steam support with a super simple page to find bundles for Steam code.
Ooh, I just found the Mist and Riven Complete collection for $8 on Humble using Deku Deals right now.
I also use Deku Deals to build and add and share wish list. You can even use it to keep track of your collection.
You know what? I think we should all build some lists and host them on DekuDeals.com/giantbomb.
And if listeners go to DekuDeals.com/giantbomb, they can vote to make us play a game on the November 21st episode of Unprofessional Fridays.
Learn more at DekuDeals.com/giantbomb.
All right, we're back. It's Game Mess Mornings. Jan Ochoa, Jeff Grubb. Let's get back into the Valve hardware stuff. Valve won't put a price on the Steam Machine yet. It says it'll be really competitive with the price of building a similar PC. This is from Alex Hopley at Game Reactor. I think they're framing there of Similar PC and not equivalent console is going to be important. This thing is going to land more on the PC side of things in terms of pricing, is my guess. Valve is taking a bit of a gamble reintroducing us to the Steam Machine, as was announced yesterday. It's the headlining piece of a new round of hardware from Valve releasing early next year. The Gabe Cube, which there's a lot of fun names for this thing. I like that one, as some have called it, looks like a neat little box, but the one question on everyone's lips is how much will it cost? Valve isn't quite ready to reveal that just yet, but in a conversation with IGN hardware engineer Yazan Al-Hayat, said the price is competitive if you were planning to build a PC with similar specifications. If you're trying to make a PC that has similar features and similar performance, I think the Steam Machine is going to be really competitive, be at a really competitive price to that and provide really good value to it, he said. The affordability piece you mentioned is one of the reasons why we think a Steam Machine makes a lot of sense right now. So it's just something that we thought about every time we made a hardware decision, a feature decision, is to make sure that we keep it as approachable and as affordable as possible. So yeah, did you get a chance to ask them about this? Did they make it sound like it's going to, like, we're thinking of this as a PC and PC pricing?
When the topic of pricing came up, it was definitely a conversation that they were not quite ready to have at this point in time. However, that being said, Grubb, the language was like, we're kind of aiming towards the more of like an entry level PC price rather than Steam Deck prices. And with all things considered, of all the guts inside that little cube, I think that does make sense.
Yeah.
I could see it. I don't know, maybe my own comfort levels of paying up to $700.
That's where I'm at. So my like for the base model starts between 600 and 700. I think we're probably talking 650 for that 512 gigabyte model. We'll see. It could be more than that. There's a bunch of reasons why I think they're talking about the PC as the anchor point here. Big one is, unlike the Steam Deck, this thing is clearly a PC, clearly something you can boot up into desktop mode. You could, if you were running a small company, you're running a mid-sized company, you're running a big company, and you need to have computers for your office, you could easily buy 10,000 of these things. And then all of a sudden it's like, well, now it's being used in offices, and the subsidized effect of people buying these things to buy games doesn't come into play there. So it's I can see why the price needs to be a little bit higher.
So Grubb, I'm glad you mentioned this. I've been waiting to bring this up. One of the things that we talked about with the Steam devs is the possibility of these just being someone's PC, perhaps, right?
Yes.
And then I brought up the idea of, what if I just used like a fleet of Steam machines as production computers?
Yeah, we could build your own render farm.
Exactly. So I have like a series of 3 cubes, and I'm like Mr. Terrific from the Superman movie or DC Comics, just sitting there producing a live stream. And the lovely people at Valve were like, yeah, you could do that. You could do that.
Yep. They're not going to stop you. That's for sure. I mean, it's a computer. You could put whatever you want on it. They said that a million times about it. So yeah, and then as people in chat are pointing out, and I think we are on like a 4 or 5 episode streak of mentioning this factoid, RAM prices are really rough right now. They've at least doubled, like kind of across the board. And it sounds like that's not going to stop anytime soon. Going through next year, the expectation, according to the industry and analysts, is RAM prices will continue to be high and could push even higher. As always, we'll point out that is due to the industry that produces RAM, the companies like SK Hynix, Samsung, Micron. I think those are the 3 major ones. They have been investing their time and money into the AI side of the RAM, which is a different kind of RAM, but they are investing their time and money there. So everything else is being kind of left behind. And that means that even as demand increases over there, they can't meet that demand. They're not interested in meeting that demand. So yes, it's just a very obvious, if you look at the situation, those prices will continue to go higher. So this thing could be a little bit more expensive than we're even talking about right now, because memory is already one of the more expensive components in a system, and that's not going to go away as these prices continue to go up. 600 to 700 though, if they can get there, I think this thing will do really well. It'll be one of the best-selling computers, of recent times. All that stuff. Because I think that everything's sort of in place now. the reason Steam machines originally, I think it was 2015, 2014, about 10 years ago, it didn't work because SteamOS wasn't ready, and it was all focused on Linux versions of games. And while there was a lot of those, there weren't enough. And now everything just works, and it's because Valve and others in the open source community have done a ton of work on Proton and Windows translation layers. And so it's like things have just changed so much that now Linux as a gaming platform is ready to go. And I think that we're at a point where a lot of people are going to be ready to jump in that direction, because it feels like with all these announcements, Jan, and the success of the Steam Deck and the kind of weird feelings around everything else and prices going up on hardware left and right, people are going to be looking for a long-term sort of home base for gaming. And Valve and PC gaming feels like the most sturdy rock in a like very shaky pool, right?
100% Grub, especially with how console prices have been fluctuating. I can see the case of FOMO building up. If you didn't get a PS5 at launch, you initially had the FOMO of that. But now seeing the price steadily climb up as time goes on for a 5-year-old console, it should be mentioned. I could see that the FOMO rising in terms of like, okay, I should buy it now before it gets more expensive, or it completely stopping someone from wanting to pick up a PS5 to begin with. And the value that the Steam machine has is it is a new thing versus an old thing that is a PS5 or an existing Xbox.
Yep. This is going to be the kind of thing where until we get it at home and can really put it through its paces, there's going to be a lot of questions about it. People are going to wonder about the price to value. And, I think there's plenty of things to get hung up on. I imagine every time this comes up now, like I see in chat, like Matt Susi in chat's like, it's already dated. It feels, because it's that 8 gigabytes of video RAM. It's going to really stick out to people. For me, it's always about the real world use cases, real world performance. What does it actually feel like? The numbers are always less than half the story. They're going to have done a lot of work on this thing. And if it becomes like Steam Deck, where developers begin optimizing their games for this device, those numbers will matter less and less. Although, of course, there will always be situations where it's like, oh, this game did need those 16 gigabytes of RAM. So what are we doing here? All right, we got to move on, but let's hit this last thing from Valve. They have a pretty good idea of what Steam Deck 2 is going to be, but it's not ready to talk about it yet or say anything. They said, obviously, the Steam Deck's not our focus today, but the same things we've said in the past, where where we're really interested to work on what's next for Steam Deck. The thing we're making sure of is that it's a worthwhile enough performance upgrade to make sense as a standalone product. We're not interested in getting to a point where it's 20 to 30 or even 50% more performance at the same battery life. We want something a little bit more demarcated than that. Shouts out to lines of demarcation. I think that I was kind of getting ahead of myself a little bit, Jan, when I was reading about the Steam frame. I'm like, the next Steam Deck is going to be an ARM-based processor. But I think if they did that, they would end up with something that is 50% more performant and then has way better battery life. And maybe they'd be cool with that. But the way they're talking about it, probably not yet. So maybe we're talking like Steam Deck 3 or Steam Deck Lite, like 5-6 years from now. But either way, like they clearly, after all of this work on this other hardware, are using all of this information to inform them of what the Steam Deck 2 is really going to be. And did you get that sense of like, oh, they're super confident about where they're headed with all these things?
Yes. The common sentiment around was like, oh, crap, we're also a hardware company now, huh? I guess
Yep.
that's a thing that happened. But it is a happy stumbling into from the vibe that I was getting from talking to the employees at Valve. The other thing is that became apparent is that there's no external pressure to have to churn out a new annual edition of a Steam Deck. Like they don't need to. 2026 is going to roll around, and they don't feel the need to churn out a version of the machine with incremental improvements versus like waiting and honing in all the information that they've taken in to build something that they feel like should be properly called the Steam Deck 2 or whatever the next Steam Deck is. So again, I trust the people at Valve. When they want to make something, they will put it out.
All right, let's get through the rest of these stories now that we don't have much time left. The next Ratchet & Clank game is a free-to-play multiplayer shooter. This is from Andy Robinson at VGC.
Wait, what? No,
Yeah,
No.
it's even more than that. Sony Interactive Entertainment has announced a new Ratchet and Clank game, and it's a multiplayer shooter for mobile. Ratchet and Clank Ranger Rumble is a fast-paced multiplayer platformer or arena shooter published by PlayStation and developed by Obibi, yeah, there we go, in partnership with Insomniac. Play as legendary heroes from across the galaxy and time, customize your ranger, and unleash your skill in chaotic game modes. Just sounds like a game that they slapped a license on. Maybe it's more than that, but that's what it feels like. Look, the reality is that studio's busy, so we weren't going to get any other like real Ratchet right now. Is this a case of it's better this than nothing or not, Jan?
No, it's
Yeah.
not better, Grubb.
It's not.
They won't do anything with Sly Cooper. Jack and Dexter have been waiting in the wings, and they'll bring out Ratchet and Clank occasionally, and this is what they do to them?
Yep.
PlayStation, what the fuck? These are this is like you're hauling out like Terry Funk, and then like you're just throwing him through tables and glass. Why?
It's a mean thing to do to Terry Funk, Sony. Stop that. Hey, we'll see. I know that most of the chat is saying this game basically already doesn't exist to me, and I know that's where I'm going to end up falling as well. But I maybe it's a good sign that they're like willing to continue to do this with Ratchet and Clank. Maybe that means that they're not going to let Marvel games completely consume Insomniac, but who knows? Speaking of Sony games from out of nowhere, Horizon Steel Frontiers, an MMO RPG from NCSoft, has been announced for PC and mobile. This is from Jordan Midler at VGC. NCSoft has announced Horizon Steel Frontiers, a new MMO RPG based on Sony's Horizon franchise. Announced at G-Star 2025, the game is being developed in collaboration with the original Horizon developer Guerrilla. The game is planned for mobile and PC via NCSoft's Purple app. Set in the lands of the machine hunters known as the Deadlands, the game builds on Horizon's signature hunting action gameplay while introducing introducing advanced MMORPG systems featuring deeply customizable combat and extensive player freedom. It looks like Horizon, Forbidden West or whatever, but an MMO. Excuse me, sneezed. I don't know who's calling for this, but this is a big franchise for them, something they've invested a lot into. I don't know. How do you feel about it, Jan?
Grubb, it's well documented how majority of us feel about Horizon. I don't need an MMO of Horizon. I don't have the appetite for it, Grubb. I think the last time I was interested in the franchise was maybe that VR game, just because you would use a piton, and like the cool rock climbing little hooky things. I don't have any interest in it, but I hope the Horizon sickos are excited.
So just looking at it, I'm like 5 seconds here as I try to like get more information about it. I watched this earlier, but while I was getting ready, but I guess I didn't pay enough attention. It looks a lot like Monster Hunter, I think. Which makes sense that they would just try to do that. I don't know. Let's see here. Let's keep going. They do think more Horizon games are coming, including a non-MMO multiplayer game. This is from Eddie McCoo at GameSpot. Sony and NCSoft are making a new Horizon MMO, but it's not the only entry in the series in the works right now, it seems. Guerrilla Games said that the studio is busy working on new experiences where players can hunt machines in the world of Horizon, and they have more on that to come. Guerrilla has not announced any new Horizon game, but it's been reported for some time now that the developer is making a multiplayer Horizon game. They're also likely making the next real single-player adventure game. Horizon, I mean, it does seem like it's working for them, even if we're not super into it. Is part of, I guess, do you think it can sustain all of this, though?
Well, that's the problem, Grubb, is that I feel like the people that are into Horizon really like Aloy, and these other games may not feature Aloy as a primary character, so I don't know how strong or fleshed out the world of Horizon is outside of her lens. So I mean, it has a very strong and distinct look to it, and how all of the robot animals look, but I don't know if that interest carries over to the rest of the audience that is really into Horizon.
Yeah, me neither. I'm sure we'll get more soon on this. They'll probably let this MMO come out first, and then in the wake of that, I bet they'll have some news about the rest of the games. PlayStation is going to drop the price of PS5 models across Europe by at least €100 for Black Friday. The PS5 Standard Edition will be $449. It was $549. PS5 Digital Edition will be $349. Was $499. And PS5 Pro will be $699, where it was previously $799. Again, that's all in euro. And I guess that's one of the benefits for this company when they raise prices, or one of the many benefits, is they can now afford to do discounts again, where previously it was like, we're at the lowest price that we're comfortable with. I guess PlayStation 5 got quite a few discounts early on when they were really trying to hit some numbers. But I don't know. It's this feels like, okay, great. We can go back to the prices we were maybe previously paying because you've increased prices so many times. However, I bet it does function well for them, especially with people still trying to get these systems in time for Grand Theft Auto 6. And now, sure, they have more time, but people know these prices could keep going up. And then finally, Analog 3D is shipping that $250 N64 FPGA device. It's going to begin shipping November 18th. I got my notification.
Oh, congratulations, Grubb.
Yeah, it was like, hey, yeah, your thing's going to ship. So that was great to see. All right, that does it for the headlines. Let's get to the poll question from yesterday. I have it right here. Let me just refresh to make sure I have the freshest numbers. Grade PlayStation State of Play Japan, A, B, C, or D, or lower. I went with a C, as did 44% of respondents. The next highest was D or lower at 32%. Then 21% of respondents gave it a B, and 4% gave it an A. These state of plays always kind of have a lot going against them. They are more commercials than even some of these other kind of events that we get, where it's a lot of it is, hey, these games exist. You should remember them. We have your attention. We're going to sell them to you. And then that means they always live and die on the biggest, newest, freshest announcements. And state of plays, there's no guarantee you're really going to get a lot of those. So, yeah, people weren't super thrilled. And really, the big announcement was a cheaper Japanese-only PlayStation 5. And that doesn't affect most of this audience. In fact, it excludes them in key ways.
Yeah.
All right. That is that poll question. We'll get to the new poll question here in a second. In fact, actually, let's just do it right now. Are you getting a new Steam machine? Yes or no? I know that the response to this will primarily be, it will depend on the price. I just answer right now based on your gut feeling. And then once we get the price, we'll ask again and see how things go. So are you getting a Steam machine? Yes or no? We'll get the results of that, talk about it on Game Mess Mornings here on Giant Bomb tomorrow. Speaking of Giant Bomb, Jan, it's Thursday. We got voicemail dump truck. Maybe me and Dan might have time for a run at some point. We'll see. And then tomorrow it's going to be, UPF and a few other things. Well, people get ready to go to Dan's for Saturday, where we're going to do Extra Life.
Yes. We got Bailey Myers on the dump truck later today. Tomorrow, I believe we're going to do COD Blop 7 for Unprofessional Fridays. And we all know how I perform in Call of Duty. I'm going to carry the team, baby.
Yeah, let's go.
But yes, also for folks that missed it, please go check out the video that Dan and I did when we visited Valve and checked out all of these new Steam things.
I'll say I'm glad that our business works the way it does, where we don't have to play the numbers game necessarily. It's always great to get a lot of views on YouTube, but the people in our community who are watching that video, Jan, they are in love with it. And it's like, oh yeah, we work for them. That's our primary business, is people who support us directly. So we can just make stuff directly for them. And I think you nailed it. So really, really great work. All right. We got the new poll question out of the way. We got the what's happening for the rest of the week out of the way. So now I say, Jan Ochoa, thank you so much for hanging out with me and talking about video games, man. I really appreciate it.
It is the best way to start a Thursday.
Thank you all for watching and listening. You are the best audience in gaming. Until next time, have a good one. Take care of yourself, and goodbye.